So now only we are coming to an very important area. So, so far we have discussed about the financial performance indicators. So in fact, so I was just reminding you, so probably you might have worked out these ratios even in your A levels, but here the point what you need to understand that the most important thing is about the interpretation and also applying them in the context of performance measurement. එතන මේක තල වැදගත්ම දේ තමයි මේක අර performance measurement වලදී අපි භාවිතා කරනවා කියන කාරණාව. ඒතකොට යම්කිසි ආයතනයක් to what extent that they are achieving how successful in achieving the objectives or the purpose of an organization. So in doing so, they'll be looking at the profitability ratios, even the liquidity aspect of an organization, even the risk of an organization, right? They want to keep the things in control. So they might set the targets. So depending on that, depending on their objectives, they may set the targets, and also they may looking at what is the actual situation or what they have achieved so far. So it's about the what we call that the profitability, liquidity, and the risk dimension. But predominantly, all these ratios are financial ratios. So when you come to the present or the contemporary business environment, the importance of these financial performance indicators or the importance of the uh, ratios so are getting quite lesser and lesser. තොට අද වෙනකොට වර්තමාන ව්‍යාපාර පරිසරය දිහා බලපුවාම අපිට පේනවා මේ ෆයිනෑන්ෂල් නම්බර්ස් වල තියෙන වැදගත්කම සාපේක්ෂව අඩුයි. So most of the time the most important value drivers, most important drivers of the performance of an organization is going to be the non-financial performance indicators. So with that on mind, let us look at some of the limitations of these financial performance indicators. Issues surrounding the use of financial performance indicators to monitor performance. All of the ratios reviewed so far have concentrated on the financial performance of the business. So it was looking at the financial aspects, the performance, even the position. So, but it's predominantly financial health that you've been investigating. Many of these ratios, say the return on capital employed, the gross profit, may be used to assess the performance of a division and of a manager in charge of that division. Yes, that's true. You can use these ratios comfortably in assessing the performance. However, there are a number of problems associated with the use of financial performance indicators to measure or monitor performance. So there are certain limitations of these financial performance indicators. So this is particularly important even in case of answering the question in the examination. So this would be particularly important, not just to repeat, but the putting them with more precise understanding. With a good understanding, you need to put them. So one of the main problem is that when it comes to these performance indicators, they are short-term oriented, or we call it the problem of short-termism. So you are looking at the short run. It's not about the long-term success of the organization, but instead you may be overly focused on the short-term success of the organization. ඒතර මේ financial performance indicators වල තියෙන ප්‍රධානම තත්ත්වයක් තමයි අපි focus කරන්නේ short term එක. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි හිතන්නේ long term success of an organization. Right? So in the short run, by doing different things, you can make some good profit. For example, if I'm to give you an example, for a business organization, by reducing the quality of their inputs, by reducing the quality of their inputs, they can go to a good profit, right? එතකොට ආයතනයකට අවශ්‍ය නම් තමන්ගේ ඉන්පුට් වල තියෙන quality එක අඩු කරලා අපිට හොඳ ලාභයකට යන්න පුළුවන් short run එකේදී. So in the short run it may even boost your profit. But at the long run, so when the customers are worrying about the quality, so they might question or even they might not carry out business with you. So therefore, if you take a kind of financial performance indicator based uh, measurement, so sometimes you might tend to increase, say, the profitability of an organization. So at that time, sometimes you may compromise a long-term important value driver, maybe the quality. By sacrificing, by compromising the quality, you can achieve a lower cost. The lower cost means higher profit. So that is one of the main dangers of these financial performance indicators. So if you take a financial performance indicators, say it's profitability, it's profit. So you can achieve this profit by two ways. The one is to increase the income, other one is to decrease the cost. So in a very competitive environment, you might find it difficult to increase the sales, increase the income. So then the only viable option is to reduce the cost. But when you're trying to reduce this cost, sometimes it would result in compromising the quality. So this is particularly true that, so one of the things that I'm constantly witnessing in around the university most of the time, right? So you might find that there are plenty of food providers. So near the university, you know, so there are different kinds. So in my uh, uh, life during the university, so I have seen that there are like even 100 of suppliers are there. So many people are coming to the market. So when they come to the market, first they would offer a good quality and then they attract the customers. And we are going to bring repeat business. But over time, slightly what they are doing, they are simply compromising the quality. So they are simply compromising the quality just to reduce the cost. So when they are trying to do that, what happens is that, so the taste is gone, the quality is gone. So therefore, simply we are moving away. So if a particular organization is profit oriented, so they are taking a short-term perspective. It's a very practical thing. So it's a negative thing. So the simple words, they are not focusing on the long-term value drivers like quality and even the customer satisfaction, right? Those aspects. And also you find that when it comes to these financial performance indicators, we develop them based on the financial statements. So then whatever the problem that is there in the financial statement would also be witnessed in the financial performance indicators. In the sense, you know, by using different accounting policies, you can manipulate the profit, right? By using certain policies, you can, even the estimates, you can uh, make an impact to the profit. You can increase the profit if you wish to increase the profit. So then you may use some uh, conservative kind of policies, and then you may tend to reduce the cost. So as a result of that, the profit increases. So it's a manipulation. It's not the actual result. So therefore, the financial statement lend for manipulation. So the financial statements පුතාලා දන්නවා අපිට විවිධ ගිණුම් කරන ප්‍රතිපත්ති භාවිතා කරලා අපිට පුළුවන් මේ profits manipulate කරන්න. ඒතර profit manipulate කරනවා කියන්නේ අපේ financial performance indicators should manipulate වෙනවා. ඒ මත පදනම් වෙලා ගණනය කරන්න. ඒතර ඒකත් එක ප්‍රධාන ගැටලුවක්. And on the other hand, the most important one is that even it does not convey the full picture. You're only looking at the one side of the story. It's just the numbers. Numbers does not tell the whole story. So you even need to look at the non-financial aspect. You know, when it comes to the present environment, when it comes to the contemporary business environment, the importance of this financial numbers is even less than 20%. So in the present environment, according to one of the most recent study, they found that the most important value driver in the present environment is the customer satisfaction. What decide the success of a business is nothing but the customer satisfaction. It all depends on how satisfied your customers. But if you look at these financial performance indicators, what we have discussed, we haven't looked at the customer satisfaction. And at the same time, another important factor for the success of a business is the employee morale or employee satisfaction. But none of the measures what we have discussed so far looked at the employee morale. The other aspect is the quality of the processes. So quality of the business processes that you have. But none of the measures what we have discussed so far looked at that particular aspect. So it's a problem. And similarly, the other important thing is it's about the brand. So if you think about the prestigious brand like BMW, if you look at uh, even the Apple, right, even the Facebook, so all these companies, they are having values of billions and millions. So therefore, this brand image is also important, the brand value. So therefore, you even need to look at some ratios directed towards these drivers as well. But it has not been captured necessarily by the financial performance indicators what we have discussed so far. So therefore, it only looks at the financial aspect. It simply ignore the non-financial value drivers or the non-financial performance is simply being ignored, right? Is this ratio analysis comes under either financial accounting, management accounting perspective? Uh, yes, here Putha, it's about a purpose that we use internally. It is for the performance measurement. So I do not like to kind of make kind of a demarcation between the financial accounting and management accounting, but just to tell, it comes under the management accounting because here our focus is about the performance measurement. So when it comes to performance measurement, so we are looking at in this particular kind of a context, the vision, mission, strategic objectives, and in such a context, how we are achieving our objectives. So therefore, it is more about the management of the business or the management accounting, right? So not from a financial accounting point of view. It's not, we are not simply taking the focus of the investors. මෙතන අපි බලන්නේ investors ලගේ පැත්තෙන් නෙමෙයි ආයතනයේ ඇතුළෙන් පුතා. ආයතනයේ ඉන්න managers ලගේ පැත්තෙන්. Right? Good, good. So it's really helpful for a better understanding. Good. So we are taking the management perspective, not the investor perspective, like in case of financial accounting. Even in the financial accounting, ratios are particularly important. That is to support the investment decisions. But here, we are looking at it from an internal point of view, the management perspective. Good. Okay. Right. Now you find that the financial performance indicators are having certain limitation. So you are becoming short-term oriented. You're not looking at the long run, short run. So it's about compromising the quality over the profitability, the manipulation of results. So, you know, the profit can be manipulated. So the ratios, so do not convey the full picture. Yeah. Could you explain again the manipulation? Yeah. So manipulation of results, I told you that, you know, when it comes to profit of an organization, it depends on certain income and expenses. So just think about an expenses like provision for warranty. You know, when it comes to the provision for warranty, basically it's a judgment, it's an estimate, right? Let's say that being a manager, if you know that your performance is evaluated based on the profit that you make, if you really want to get into a higher profit, what you can do, you can simply put a small amount for this provision. මේ provision එක විදිහට ඔයාලට බොහොම පොඩි amount එකක් දාන්න පුළුවන්. ඔයා manager කෙනෙක් නෑ. ඒතකොට accounting policies භාවිතා කරලා ඒ estimate එක ඔයාට අඩුවෙන් කරන්න පුළුවන්. Similarly, when it comes to depreciation, if you really want to reduce the depreciation, what you can do, you can revisit the useful life and you can increase the useful life. So if you simply increase the useful life, what happens is that the depreciation figure is going to be small. So if you are getting a small depreciation figure, it means higher profit. So it's about the manipulation of the profit. So if you compute the return on capital employed, or if you calculate the net profit margin, you might find that there would be huge uh, ratios. So there would be huge amount. But exactly that is not the true picture. It is something that you manipulate, something that you have deliberately changed. ඒක තියෙන ඔයා වෙනස් කරපු තත්ත්වයක් නේ. ඒකට accountant අවශ්‍ය නම්, ඒ manager අවශ්‍ය නම් අවශ්‍ය විදිහට accounting estimates, policies භාවිතා කරලා ඔය profit එක වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන්. That is the reality. Though it seems that it's objective, though it seems that it is heavily governed by the accounting standards, but at the same time, it allows the professional judgment, especially in cases of the estimates, the depreciation. Yes, you can still change the profit. But profit එක වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන්. So is that clear, Buddha? That is about the manipulation. You are simply changing the profit figures. Got it? Hope so. Okay. So then we are moving on to having seen the limitations. Now we are looking at the non-financial performance indicators. So what about the non-financial performance indicators? The previous section revealed the problems of using financial performance indicators as the sole indicator of performance. This section will review the use of non-financial performance indicators as an additional tool to monitor the performance and maximize the long-term profitability. So as I told you, when it comes to the practice, you are not simply using the financial performance indicators itself. Even it's a combination. When the very example that I took from the very beginning, it's a very practical, it's a real situation. So here you could see that they are using these ratios. So the non-financial as well as financial ratios. It's a combination. So that's what the practice. A firm's success usually involves focusing on a small number of critical areas that they must excel at. So you must need to focus on the certain areas, not all the areas, but very critical areas that you can be truly successful. So these factors vary from business to business, but could include having a wide range of product that people want. So sometimes one of the critical areas for your success of your business, it's about the wide range of products. The people would love to see a variety of products. So therefore, it is better to have some performance indicators directing towards that, which encourage the innovation. So you can have a certain performance indicator like number of innovation for the period 5. Then you know, so during the period you need to have 5 innovations, something like that. Then that will help to achieve your objective. Having a strong brand name or image, again you can have a kind of a particular measure directed towards that. Then you really take care of that particular aspect. ඒකට අපිට strong brand name එකක් අවශ්‍ය නම් ඒකට අපිට ඒකට මොනවා හරි performance measure එකක් establish කරගන්න පුළුවන්. So sometimes you may establish like number of promotional activities. For a particular period, you may plan 10 promotional activities. So which is directed towards making your brand strong. ඔයාගේ brand එක strong කරන්න ඔයා ඒ වගේ promotional campaigns 10ක් කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. Right? So then you can see that you are achieving that particular aspect. So these are the critical success factors. So if you really want to achieve low cost, you can even direct some performance measures in that direction. So then you know you would be ended up achieving. And quick delivery. So, you know, especially when it comes to the online businesses, most of the time, even the food deliveries, you find that the delivery on time is really a matter that the customers are concerning. So therefore, they might set certain initiative to ensure that the products are being delivered on time. So the number of products that delivered on time may be a measure. So when you establish a measure and when you achieve that, you know you have ended up achieving that particular aspect. The other aspect could be the customer satisfaction. So if you find that the customer satisfaction is key to success of your business, then what you do, you may have some measures on that. maybe the customer satisfaction index. So almost all the organization nowadays measure the customer satisfaction. So therefore, when it comes to this performance measurement, we generally say that what get measured get done. It's a very popular phrase when it comes to this performance measurement. What get measured get done. අපි මිනුම් කරන්නේ මොනවද? ඒ දේවල් අපි achieve කරනවා. Right? It's a very interesting saying. How low prices be non-financial indicators? No, but it's about here what it has mentioned is that the things what is critical for your success. එතකොට මෙතන මෙන්ෂන් කරලා තියෙන්නේ අපේ ව්‍යාපාරයේ සාර්ථකත්වයට අදාළ වෙන යම් යම් කරුණු කාරණා කිහිපයක්. එතකොට එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් අපි innovations, එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් strong brand එක. එතකොට low price කියන්නේ අපේ critical success fact එකක්. එතකොට අපි low price නම් achieve කරන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට අපි හිතන්න පුළුවන් ඒක ඒ දිශාවට අපි වරන් යන measure එකක් establish කරන්න මොකක් හරි. එතකොට අපි හිතමු කොහොමද ආයතනයක low prices encourage කරන්නේ. Maybe product improvements. Maybe product improvements. So therefore, you can have a measure like say customer suggestions, sorry, employee suggestions. ඒ වගේ measure එකක් කොහොමද අපි establish කරන්නේ. ඒතර අපි දන්නවා යම් කිසි ආයතනයක අපි හිතමු අපි කා එකක් install කරනවා වගේ ආයතනයක්. ඒතර අපිට හිතන්න පුළුවන් මේකත් එක්ක engage වෙලා ඉන්නේ employeesලා. ඒතකොට employeesලා දන්නවා මේකේ cost එක reduce කරන්න පුළුවන් විදිහනේ. ඒතකොට අපිට ගේන්න පුළුවන් performance measure එකක් number of employee suggestions. Right? ඒතකොට employee suggestions වගේ දෙයක් establish කරලා අපිට එයාලගේ suggestions ගන්න පුළුවන්. So depending on that we can work on and we can at the end of the day achieve the low price. ඒතකොට ඊළඟ quick delivery කියන එක අපේ වැදගත් critical success fact එකක්. ඒතර අපිට පුළුවන් establish කරන්න performance indicator එකක්. What about number of deliveries on time? On time deliveries. Right? ඒතර අපිට ඒකෙන් බලන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපිට measure එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන් number of items that we couldn't deliver on time. කියලා අරගෙන අපිට ඕන නම් ඒක 0 තියන්න පුළුවන්. නැත්නම් අපි යම් කිසි මට්ටමකට ඒක tolerate කරනවා නම් 5ක් 10ක් තියන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේ යම් කිසි target එකක් set කරගන්න පුළුවන්. customer complaints තියෙනවා. ඒතර මේ වගේ විවිධ අපේ ආයතනයේ වැදගත් අපේ ආයතනයේ සාර්ථකත්වයට වැදගත් වෙන dimensions වලට අපි set කරගන්න ඕනේ performance indicators. එතකොට ඒක පුතා ඇත්තටම depend වෙන්නේ ඒක draw වෙන්නේ දැන් අපිට දැන් මේ විදිහේ නිකන් කල්පනා කරොත් හිතෙන්න පුළුවන් එහෙම අපි කොහොමද decide කරන්න කියන්නේ. එතකොට ඔයාලට හොඳ starting point එකක් තමයි මම මේ අර කලින් කතා කරපු දේ. දැන් බලන්න මේ ආයතනේ කොච්චර structured. So see what is their purpose? They want to create value responsibly. That is the purpose. ඒක යා cascade down කරගත්තා objectives වලට create value for shareholders, create value for stakeholders, create for being a responsible citizen. ඔන්න මේ ටික cascade down කරගත්තා. දැන් යාට ඒ එක දේවල් measure කරන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට when it comes to create value for shareholders, they can think about the higher return on capital employed, even the net profit margin. So even the market price per share. So what do you call that? The ratios like EPS, right? EPS වගේ දෙයක් ගන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් යාට what do you call that? PE ratio. ඒත් මේ වගේ දේවල් ගන්න පුළුවන් නේ. ඒත් එකම customers-ලා එතකොට create value for stakeholders කිව්වහම customers-ලා key නේ. එතකොට customer satisfaction. එතකොට employees-ලා key. එහෙනම් employee engagement එක. Business partner satisfaction. So likewise, different kinds of critical success factors you can identify, especially when it comes to a kind of a particular business organization, and depending on that, you can set the kind of a performance indicators. And in order to answer that question, there's a well-established framework in the world, and they are identifying when it comes to organization, what are the areas that you really need to look at? And we call it the Balance Scorecard. So in this particular model, it says that for an organization to be success, they need to focus on 4 areas. So the one particular area that the organization must really concern in order to be successful, that is about the customers. You cannot forget about the customers and become successful. So therefore, the customer is a key. Hence, you need to have certain measures to ensure that your customers are satisfied. So what is about us that new and existing customers value? What is it about us that the new and existing customers value? So we try to give a value to the customers. On the other hand, you need to focus about your processes. So that is another important thing when it comes to your success, the processes. So therefore, that's what we call the internal perspective. That is another area. When you are going to set the performance objectives, performance uh, measurement indicators, you can set them directing towards the processes. So ආයතනයක තව එක වැදගත් අංගයක් තමයි ආයතනයේ තියෙන processes. So the processes වලට ඔයාලට direct කරන්න පුළුවන් performance indicators. And on the other side, you can think about innovation and learning. So you must always need to be innovative. For organization to be successful, they have to be innovative and they need to learn new things. So therefore, you can encourage that. So using the performance indicators, directing towards the innovation and learning, you can encourage your organization to get into a kind of a getting or being successful. And at the end of the day, all these things will eventually reflect in the financials. So it's about the financial performance indicators. So it's about how you create value for your shareholders. There may be return on capital employed, the net profit margin, the gross profit margin. So even depending on your requirement, depending on your objectives, depending on your vision mission, you can think of what are the suitable performance indicators. So this particular model gives you a kind of a initial starting point. එතකොට අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් performance indicators කොහෙටද set කරන්න කියන එක අපි නිකමට හිතුනොත් එතකොට මේක හොඳ starting point එකක්. එතකොට ආයතනයක තියෙන වැදගත් areas 4ක් අඳුනගෙන තියෙනවා. එතකොට මේ හතරට අපි performance indicators direct කරන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් ඒක අපි කොහොමද කරන්න කියන එක අපි select කරන්න ඕන performance indicators මොනවද කියන එක decide වෙන්නේ. It totally depends on your objectives, the vision, mission, purpose, and your strategic objectives. මේ දේවල් වලට අනුකූලව තමයි අපි decide කරන්න ඕනේ ඔය කියන customer aspect, innovation and learning, and the processes, and finally the shareholders. ඔය කියන areas වල අපි මේක pitch කර ගන්න. Right? So therefore, in the performance measurement, the most important thing is about this, the vision, mission, purpose, the strategic objectives. This balance scorecard helps you to achieve or successfully pursue the purpose of an organization, to successfully pursue the strategic objectives of an organization. That's what this perspective, this balance scorecard would help you. So you can see that it combines the financial performance indicators and non-financial performance indicators. මේ දෙකේම එකතුවක් තමයි balance scorecard එක කියන්නේ. ඒක model එකක් ලෝකෙට අඳුන්ලා දුන්නා in 1980s. Even it remains valid in the today's environment. මේක සාමාන්‍ය ලෝකෙට අඳුන්ලා දෙන්නේ 1985 වගේ. නමුත් අද වෙනකොටත් මේකේ වැදගත්කම රඳා පවතී. මොකද ඒක හොඳ sound model එකක් නේ. දැන් ආයතනයක් කරනවා නම් අපි shareholdersලා බලන්න ඕනේ. අපේ customers ලා ගැන බලන්න ඕනේ. අපේ processes හොඳට තියෙන්න ඕනේ නේ. ඒතර ඒවට employeesලාත් capture වෙනවා. ඒතර අපේ innovation learning තියෙන්න ඕනේ. So they also capture the employees, right? ඒතර මේ වගේ අපිට ආයතනයක් දිහා බලන්න පුළුවන් දෘෂ්ටි කෝණ හතරකින්, පැති හතරකින්. Right? But the purpose is to eventually to achieve the objectives and the vision, mission, purpose. But again, at the same time, you need to remember that the balance scorecard is not free from problems. It's also having certain limitation. So the balance scorecard එක perfect model එකක් නෙමෙයි. ඒකේ ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවානේ. The selection of measures can be difficult. How should the company measure innovation? So when it comes to setting the performance indicators, it's not going to be an easy task. So how you are going to measure the innovation? It's not any straightforward thing. So how do you encourage the innovations? So when deciding on a measure, you need to think about obtaining information can be difficult. For example, obtaining feedback from customers can prove difficult, but the validity of this is quite less in the present environments. With the help of the technology, the most of the organizations are in a position to obtain the customer feedback, right? But still, the some organizations, especially those who are not moving towards the technology, may find it difficult to obtain the feedback from the customers. So they find them that difficult. And the information overload due to the large number of measures that may be chosen. So one of the tendencies is that once you see these four perspectives, when you are going to set these performance indicators, you may try to load each of these perspectives with excessive amount of performance indicators. For example, for customers, you may set maybe 4 to 5 performance indicators. For internal, maybe 5 to 10. Innovation and learning, maybe 8 to 10. Financial, 4 to 5. So you may be ended up having whole lot of performance indicators. So therefore, it is not good to have the information overloaded. If that happens, you may ended up achieving nothing. නේ ඒතර සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ප්‍රායෝගිකව මේවා කරන්න ගියපුවාම වෙන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක් තමයි අපි සෙට් කරගන්නවා performance indicators විශාල සංඛ්‍යාවක්. ඒතකොට අපිට control කරන්නත් බැරි තරම් අපි performance measurement indicator set කරගත්තොත් වැඩේ ඉස්සරහට යන්නේ නැහැ. So අපි ඒක carefully balance එකක් තියාගන්න ඕනේ. අපි set කරගන්න performance indicators කීයක් වගේ set කරගන්නවද කියලා. ඒතකොට ඒවා අපි criticalම areas වලට direct කරගන්න ඕනේ. It depends on what your objectives, depends on what is your vision mission. So the measures that really helps for you to see how successful you are in achieving these objectives must only be selected. And conflict between measures. ඒ වගේම measures අතර conflict එකක් තියෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. The profitability may increase in the short term through a reduction in expenditure on staff training. So it's a short termism. So if you really want to enhance these financials, you can look at cutting down the staff training. But if you do so, it will definitely affect negatively on your innovation and learning and the internal processes. In the long run, it will reduce or compromise the profit. So it depends what you value the most. Is it the short-term profit over the long-term profit, or is it the long-term profit over the short-term profit? එතකොට ඒක අපි decide කරන්න ඕන අපි ගන්න perspective එකත් එක්ක. අපි සැලකිලිමත් වෙන්නේ දිගු කාලීන ලාභ සඳහා නම් එතකොට අපි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මේ වගේ වියදම් කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒවා අපි කැප කරන්න හොඳ නැහැ. නමුත් අපි short term profit oriented නම් ඒක අපි කැප කරනවා. So therefore it's more about maintaining a proper balance between the ratios, right? So these are some of the practical challenges. But it helps a lot in achieving the long-term success of an organization, in achieving the objectives, strategic objectives, the vision, mission, the purpose. So this balance scorecard helps, or even the financial and non-financial performance indicators together helps. And finally, the external consideration. So having discussed these financial and non-financial performance indicators, even including a model, now we are going to looking at some of the aspects what you may need to consider when you are designing or developing a performance measurement system for an organization. The performance measures provide useful information to management which aid in the control of the business. So it helps to know that to what extent that you are achieving the objectives of the organization. However, they need to be considered in the context of the environment external to the business to gain a full understanding of how the business has performed and to develop action which should be taken to improve the performance. But when you are developing a performance measurement system, you must pay due attention to the environment. So simply by disregarding the environment, you cannot set the performance measurement system. පුතා එතකොට අපි කියනවා මේ performance measurement system එකක් අපි design කරනකොට අපිට environment එක අමතක කරලම කරන්න බෑ. right? එතකොට අපි environment එක ගැනත් consider කරන්න ඕනේ. නැතුව මේ unrealistic target set කරගෙන අපිට මේ වැඩේ කරන්න බෑ. එතකොට ඒ යන environment එකත් එක්ක ඒ compromise කරලා ඒ විදිහට තමයි කරන්නේ. දැන් අපිට හොඳම උදාහරණයක් තියෙනවානේ. දැන් අපි if you think about the country after the COVID situation, so no one can operate as the way they have planned before. නේ කාටවත්ම බැරුව ඇති ඒ තමන් හිතපු විදිහටම වැඩ කටයුතු ටික කරගෙන යන්න. So the business organization affects a lot. නේ ව්‍යාපාර ආයතන වලට ගොඩක් බලපෑමට ලක් වුණා. ඒතකොට ඒ නිසා යාලා දැන් performance measurement systems උත් revisit කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒ environmental changes එක්ක more realistic targets set කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒ කරලා ඒ targets වලට තමයි වැඩ කරන්න ඕනේ. Right? The external consideration which are particularly important are stakeholders. Stakeholders in any individual or group that has an interest in the business and may improve. So when you are setting, especially the performance measurement system, you need to pay attention to the stakeholders of the business. It's not just the shareholders. Even you must attend to the comments or to the concerns of the employees. You must consider about the claims of the debt capital providers. You must listen to the government. You must listen to the community. You must think about your customers, even the environment. So likewise, by being considering the different stakeholders, you need to set the performance measurement system. So in simple words, it has to be realistic. The performance measurement system has to be realistic, or it must be something achievable. Performance measurement system එකේ තියෙන targets realistic වෙන්න ඕනේ, ඒවා achievable වෙන්න ඕනේ, ඒවා set කරන්න ඕනේ. ව්‍යාපාරයේ ඉන්න විවිධ පාර්ශවයන් කෙරෙහි අවධානය යොමු කරලා. Because you know, when it comes to an entity, it depends on several stakeholders, not just the shareholders. So therefore, you must pay attention to the claims of the other stakeholders as well. So you must pay attention to your employees. You must pay attention to the customers, even the community, the government, the debt providers, right? You cannot always work in the best interest of the shareholders. Sometimes you might have to compromise, right? So the employees may willing to have some pay rises, but the shareholders at the same time, they may not willing to see that. So in such an instance, you need to have a compromise, right? So even the government, so sometimes they might come up with certain regulation that affects negatively to the business. So they may come up with different tools, sometimes the fiscal policy and the monetary policy. So using those tools, the government can impact the business, right? So you must be paying the due consideration to that. That's what we call the external consideration. Okay, there's a question for the dividend cover ratio, whether we take both interest and tax before net profit. Dividend cover, we can take the net profit. Just take the net profit and divide it by the dividend. And for net profit margin ratio and the ROC, yes, again, I told you that when it comes to net profit margin, usually it's the profit after tax divided by sales. Return on capital employed, if you wish, you can take the net profit, profit after tax divided by the capital employed, or even if you think of, you can take the operating profit in the sense that is the profit before interest tax, and get them divided by the capital employed, whether we take after interest tax. So this is not an important thing that you need to be worried about. So as I mentioned, that it's all about the consistency. It's all about the consistency. You need to be consistent. So whatever the basis that you may select, use it consistent, right? Good. Okay, that's about kind of a general aspects I just want to discuss in the lecture. Right, now let us quickly go through the given case. It's exam type 1, and try to look at some key aspects. So we'll be uploading an answer for this as well. මේකට answer එකකුත් පුතාලා upload කරන්නම් පසුව. නමුත් දැනට case එක චුට්ටක් බලමු. It's a case study based on a particular business organization. So let us read this question together and then we may be able to draw certain insights. අපි මේක පොඩි වෙලාවක් අරගෙන බලමු. පස්සේ අපි මේකට comprehensive answer එකකුත් upload කරන්නම් පසුව පුතාලා, right? Okay. Now let us look at that. The People's Bank is a bank based in the country of Zealand. It has a total of 65 branches across the country and also offers online banking and telephone banking to its customers. So it's a particular bank, it's a People's Bank. It's a bank based on the country of Zealand, and they have currently 65 branches across the country and also offers the online banking and as well as the telephone banking to their customers. Recently, the People's Bank also began offering its customers a range of mobile banking services. So they have recently started offering some mobile banking services which can be accessed from customers' smartphones and tablet computers. Its customer base is made up of both private individuals and business customers. The range of services it offers include the current account, saving account, credit cards, business and personal loans, mortgage. So those are the loans for property purchases. So these are the products. It's a typical bank, right? You may be familiar with that. The bank with the online banking, the telephone banking, and even the mobile banking facilities. The People's Bank vision is to be the bank that gives back to its customers. This is important, right? When you read a question, you must consider about these aspects, because at the end of the day, from a performance measurement, what we expect is to achieve the objectives and also the vision mission of an organization. So therefore, pay due attention to the vision mission and the strategy objectives related information. So this bank is about the bank that gives back to its customers. So it's a kind of a more or less it's a kind of a social objective, isn't it? So they are more interested in putting or giving something back to the customers. It's not merely the profit making, isn't it? So it's about giving something back to the customers. Yes, in a way it's CSR as well, no? So it's not just the CSR, but even that's broader than that, giving value to the customers. Yes, putting something back to the customers. And their purpose is to help the people and business of the Zealand to live better life and achieve their ambition. So that is their objective, purpose. So depending on the vision, and this is their purpose. So they want the people and the business community in the country to live a better life and achieve their ambitions. In order to achieve this, the bank's values are stated as. So in doing so, in achieving this, the bank has certain priorities. The bank has certain values. They want to put their customer needs first. So customer needs can consider, which involves anticipating and understanding customer needs and making products and services accessible to as many customers as possible. Right? So the customers needs වලට priority එකක් දෙනවා. So එතනදී anticipating the needs, understanding the customer needs, and making product and services accessible to as many customers as possible. These are some of the consideration. The People's Bank has recently invested heavily in IT security to prevent fraud and also invested to make more services accessible to disabled and visually impaired customers. So recently they have invested heavily in IT. IT security වල heavily invest කරලා තියෙනවා ඒත් එක්කම invest කරලා තියෙනවා to make more services accessible to the disabled community and the visually impaired customers. See, so they are more into a kind of philanthropical kind of a task නේ. චුට්ටක් බලනවා මේ customers ලා ගැන care කරන entity එකක් නේ. They put the customers first and they talk about the different customer segments. And also they are looking at making the business simple. So that is another priority. So that is another value. They want to keep the business simple. So in that, which involves identifying opportunity to simplify activities and communicating clearly and openly. Okay. And also they are making a difference to the community they serve. Serve the community which involves primarily helping the disadvantaged and new home owners, but also supporting the small and medium-sized SMEs. So ඒ community එකේ ඉන්න disadvantaged people ලා. එතකොට අලුතෙන් නිවාස බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන කට්ටිය, ඒ වගේම small and medium sized business organization ගැනත් එයාලා consider කරනවා. එතකොට මේක තමයි more or less their objectives, values and purposes. Right? The performance measurement එක තුලින් එයාලා achieve කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ කියන කාරණා ටික. ඒතර මතක ඇති මම කිව්වා starting point එක වෙන්නේ vision, mission, purpose, strategic objectives. ඒතර ඒ ටික තමයි මේ තියෙන්නේ. ඒතර balance scorecard එකක් implement කරලා අපි අවසාන වශයෙන් achieve කරන්න බලන්නේ මෙන්න මේ කියන කාරණා ටික. Right? Then you are given the extracts from the People's Bank Balance Scorecard. So if you look at this balance scorecard, you can see the targets and the actual. Starting from the financial perspective, this is one of the dominant perspectives. The 4 perspectives, the financial perspectives. Under that, you can see certain performance indicators are there. The financial perspective indicators කීපයක් තියෙනවා. ඒතකොට එක indicator එකක් තමයි යාළගේ return on capital employed. ඒතකොට ඒකේ target එක 12යි හැබැයි 11යි achieve කරලා තියෙනවා. Interest income එක. තව target එක. Being a bank, your main income is interest. So you have planned for 7 million, but you ended up achieving higher. Net interest margin. So margin that is simply the rate that you give to your customers and the rate that you charge from the customers. So to make the lending rate සහ අපේ savings වලට අපි දෙන rate එකනේ. So net interest margin එක අපි අඩුවෙන් තමයි charge කරලා තියෙන්නේ. plan කරාට වඩා. Amount of the new lending to SMEs. SME category එකට දීලා තියෙන ණය මිලියන 135යි. අපි plan කරා 150ක් දෙන්න. මේක තමයි අපේ financial perspective එක. එක පැත්තක් ආයෙත්. Then when it comes to customer perspective, you're looking at the number of first-time home buyers given the mortgage by the People's Bank. පළවෙනි වතාවට නිවසක් මිලදී ගන්න කට්ටියට ණය දීලා තියෙනවා 80000කට දෙන්න හිතුවා 86000ක්ම දුන්නලු. Number of complaints per 1000 customers. බලන්න customers 1000කින් ඔයා හිතුවේ ඔයා බලාපොරොත්තු වුණා complaints දෙකක් විතර තියෙයි කියලා. නමුත් තිබෙ complaints 1.5. So it's a good thing. And also number of talking cash points installed for the visual impaired. එතකොට පේන්නේ නැති කට්ටියට කතා කරන ATMs වගේ ඉන්ස්ටෝල් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒකට ඒ වගේ ඒවා plan කරාටත් වඩා කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම තමයි wheelchair ramps installed in branches. ඒකට disabled කට්ටියට පහසුවෙන් access කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ මේ wheelchairs වගේ දේවල් install කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒකට ඒවා 50ක් plan කරා 55ක්ම install කරා. Good. So they are doing quite well, no? Then internal processes. So make them a third perspective. So a perspective we can evaluate. We can see number of business processes within the People's Bank re-engineered and simplified. So during the period you have simplified certain business processes. You planned for 100, but you ended up doing 110. See the simplify karalu business processes. Number of new services made available through the mobile banks, mobile banking. Priority mobile banking service පහක් දෙන්න හිතුවලු. නමුත් දෙකක් වගේ තමයි දෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. Incidents of frauds on customer accounts or credit cards per 1000 customers. Yes, you are doing quite well. And the total carbon dioxide emission 430,000, but you plan for 400,000. So it's more than that you plan. And finally, the learning and growth perspective. So in that, you can see the number of colleagues trained to provide advice to SME. The SME category eකට small and medium enterprises වලට උපදෙස් දෙන්න ආයතනයේ ඉන්න සේවකයෝ පුරුදු පුහුණු කරලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් හිතුව තරම් කරගන්න බැරි වෙලා තියෙනවා. 1500කට ප්ලෑන් කරා 1300ක් තමයි පුහුණු කරගත්තේ. The number of hours paid for by the People's Bank used to support the community projects. The community එකට support කරන projects වලට ඔයාලා ගත්ත resource person ලට සමහරට ඔයා ගෙවන්න ඇති. Paid by the People's Bank. So number of hours paid. So therefore you are doing a philanthropical kind of a task. ඊටවටත් වඩා ඔයා ඒක කරලා තියෙනවා. The number of training positions taken up by the candidates from the Sealand's most disadvantaged areas. Right? වඩා අඩු වරප්‍රසාද සහිත ප්‍රදේශවලින් පිරිසක් බඳවගෙන තියෙනවා ට්‍රේනීස්ලා විදියට. ඒතර 2000ක් බඳව ගන්න හිටියා. ඔයා 1990ක් වගේ බඳවගෙන තියෙනවා. So it's even good. The number of community organizations supported. Community organizations වලට support කරලා තියෙනවා either through funding or volunteering from the People's Bank. ඒකටත් වඩා ඔයා ඒක කරලා තියෙනවා. So this is about the overall performance measurement system of the People's Bank. So they are looking at different dimensions and they even set the KPIs. So these are the KPIs what they have set. So they are set කරලා තියෙන KPIs තමයි පුතාලා මේ තියෙන්නේ. Right? Then it asks you, explain why the Balance Scorecard approach to performance measurement is more useful to measure performance for the People's Bank than a traditional approach using solely the financial performance measures. So මෙතන අපෙන් අහනවා a Balance Scorecard approach එක performance measurement එකට suitable වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් වැදගත් වෙන්නේ useful to measure the performance of the People's Bank than a traditional approach using the solely financial performance measures. So අපි financial performance measures විතරක් නැතුව මේ වගේ different dimensions වලින් different perspectives වලින් ව්‍යාපාරය දිහා බලන එක වැදගත් වෙන්නේ ඇයි කියලා ඔයාගෙන් අහන්න. So how we are going to answer such kind of a question? What is your main points? If I just help you with certain points, make points කීපයක් හිතුවොත් explain why the balance scorecard approach to performance measurement is more useful to measure the performance. So one of the obvious things that you can highlight in the balance scorecard, yes, even you're suggesting, because they consider many aspects such as the customer. Very correct, very correct. Good job. Yeah, very correct. You are putting them in the context. Yes, both are correct, right? Very good. Really appreciate. So the one thing that you can highlight, as you all have raised, it consider about both the financial and non-financial performance. Traditional financial performance measures වලින් අපි බලන්නේ එක පැත්ත. නමුත් මෙතනින් අපිට non-financial performance එකත් බලන්න පුළුවන්. So basically, when it comes to this balance scorecard, it looks at the financial performance indicators as well as the non-financial performance indicators. So it's a combination of that. So therefore, that is one point you can highlight. So under that, again, the point what you, as you mentioned, that here you are considering about your employees. Here you are considering about your customers. Here you are considering about your processes. If you really want to achieve the long-term success, right? It's not the short-term success. If you want to achieve the long-term success, so if you really care about the customers and your employees and your internal processes, you are in the right direction. So අපිට ඇත්තටම ඕනේ long term success එක achieve කරගන්න නම් අපිට customers ලා employees ලා සහ internal processes ගැන consider කරන්න ඕනේ. So ඒ දේවල් ගැන අපි consider කරොත් අනිවාර්යෙන්ම අපි long term success එක achieve කරනවා. ඒ වගේම තමයි අපිට තව දෙයක් කියන්න පුළුවන් මෙතන උදාලා බැලුවොත් ප්‍රධානම objective එක it's more than money නේ. Their main or their vision is about the bank that gives back to its customers. It's more or less a kind of a social objective. So therefore, you find it difficult when it comes to a social objective. Objective to someone is social now. එතනදී ඔයාට අපහසුයි ඒක financial performance measures වලින් විතරක් handle කරන්න. So you find it necessarily both the financial and non-financial performance indicators are needed. So ඒකත් ඔයාලට තව highlight කරන්න පුළුවන් point එකක්. ඒත් එකම මේ වගේ question එක ඔයාලට කියන්න පුළුවන් financial performance indicators විතරක් භාවිතා කිරීමේ තියෙන negative දේවල්. It does not show you the full picture in the manipulation and even the short termism what we have discussed. Even you can put them, right? The problems of financial performance indicators highlight කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ නිසා මෙතනදී අපිට combination එකකට යන්න පුළුවන්. Long term success එක focus කරනවා. So to what extent that you are successful in achieving the vision of the organization can be measured using the financial and non-financial performance. ඔයා කොච්චර දුරට සාර්ථකයිද ව්‍යාපාරයේ තියෙන vision එක objectives purpose achieve කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් කියන එක ඔයාලා monitor කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ financial and non-financial performance indicators දෙකම consider කරලා. So therefore it's superior than solve using the financial performance measures. So ඒ වගේ දෙයක් තමයි උදාලා මෙතනින් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. So it's good that right you are in the right direction. So the ones who have contributed, yes, you are very much in the right direction. Good. Then it asks us, using all of the information provided, including the People's Bank's vision and the values, discuss the performance of People's Bank in 2020. Both financial. Mention the examples. Even, yes, if possible, that is even fine. Yeah, so here you can highlight some of the things. So like you did like customer satisfaction. So even the employee engagement, the things what you have, even if you mention them, even that is okay. But just pay attention to the number of marks. Say that here it's only 2 to 3 marks are given for this. So then you need to balance the answer. Do not write lengthy answers, right? And look at always in case of the examination, the good starting point could be the marks that is being allocated. Depending on that, you can manage the answer. So most of the time, the part B may be getting higher marks. In a question of this nature, so you are given 4 marks for the first part, while the 16 marks can be given for the part B. So therefore, your focus must be on the critical success factor, that is part B, right? Good. Okay. So when you come to this part B, it asks, using all of the information provided, including the People's Bank vision and values, discuss the performance of the People's Bank. හරි. දැන් ඒතකොට පුතාලට කියනවා මේ People's Bank එකේ performance එක discuss කරන්න කියලා මේ vision සහ value කියන context එකේ. එතකොට ඔයා මේකේ කරන්න තියෙන්නේ මොකක්ද? ඔයා කතා කරන්න යනවා මේ එක් perspective එක link කරගෙන මෙන්න මේ කියන value සහ vision එකට link කරගන්න. ඒතර මේ එක් perspective එකෙන් කොච්චරක් දුරකට contribute කරනවද ඔයාගේ මේ තියෙන vision එක, ඔයාගේ තියෙන purpose එක සහ මේ values achieve කරන්න. ඔය කියන කතාව තමයි කියන්නේ. So that is what your direction must be. We need to do explain part A points as well. I didn't get this, whether we need to do explain part A points as well. No, I just mentioned some of the points for you to explain. I just mentioned some of the points. No, you should not just mention points. Only if the time does not permit you to do, you may do that. But if you've been asked to explain, using these points, you need to elaborate. අනිවාර්යෙන්ම explain කියලා තිබ්බත් පුතා explain කරන්න ඕනේ. නමුත් මම මෙතන කරේ මොකක්ද? ඔයාට points ටිකක් දුන්නා. ඒක explain කරන්න. සහ ඔයාලා කියපු points උත් එක්ක. Good. So then what I told you in the second part, what you need to do, you need to see to what extent each of these perspectives contribute to achieve your purpose. කියන එක තමයි බලන්න ඕනේ. Then from financial perspective, if you take the financial perspective first, so you can generally comment on that. financial perspective. So when it comes to financial perspective, you can see that the return on capital employed is less than what you have planned, right? The return on capital employed is, you can see it's obviously, it's bad that it is less than what you have planned, right? But you can see that the interest income, so it is better than you have planned. The interest income එක පාට පේනවා plan කරාට වඩා හොඳ තත්ත්වයක්, right? Interest income is good. Then if you really dig deeper, why this interest income would be high, it may be because you're charging, your interest margin is less. So compared to the others, what you are charging from the customers is less than what you have planned, right? So because of that reason, you can find that your interest income would be great. අපිට පේනවා මෙතන interest income එක අපේ අපි plan කරාට වඩා වැඩි. ඒකට හේතුවක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් මේ අපේ net interest margin එක අපි plan කරාට වඩා අඩුවෙන් තමයි charge කරන්නේ. ඒකට ඒ කියන්නේ අපි customers ළගෙන් charge කරන ප්‍රමාණය අඩු වුණ නිසා අපිට repeat business තුලින් interest income එකක් ඇති වුණා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් return on capital employed is still less. ඒතර පුතාලා මෙතන draw කරන්න පුළුවන් insights. මතකද අපි කතා කරා return on capital employed කියන්නේ it's a measure of efficiency, it's a function of efficiency and profitability. ඒතර මේ ආයතනේ පේනවා නේද profitability එක හොඳයි. So they are having a higher interest income. Then what would have been the reason that they are not being able to achieve a higher return on capital employed? ඒතර ඇයි යාලට බැරි වෙන්නේ නැත්තේ higher return on capital employed achieve කරන්න? Because they may not be efficient. They are efficient නැතුව ඇති. So how do you say so? Because they are making lots of investments, isn't it? They are making lots of investment. See, during the period you have made certain business process re-engineering and you have simplified process more than what you have planned. So therefore a lot of money being invested there. So when you invest lots of money in this, and even you can see that you have established cash points, that you have established wheelchairs. So because of that, most of your money being invested. So hence, you may be achieving a small return on capital employed. But here, we cannot say it is bad, right? ත්‍රිපතාල පේනවා මෙතන අපි return on capital employed අඩුයි නේ. නමුත් අපේ profitability එක වැඩි. ඒතර අපි ඉගෙන ගත්ත දේ අපි apply කරොත් අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තා return on capital employed එක ඇතුලේ තියෙනවා efficiency එකක් නේ. එතකොට මේ ආයතනයේ profitable ආයතනයක්. ඒතර net interest income එක වැඩි කියන්නේ profits තියෙනවා. ඒතකොට ඒ ආයතනයේ එහෙමනම් return on capital employed අඩු වෙන්න බලපාන හේතුවක් තමයි efficiency. ඒතර ඔයා මේ measures හරහා ගියොත් ඔයාට පේනවා මෙයාලා lot of investments කරලා තියෙනවානේ. Investment in taking cash points, wheelchairs, and even the community engagement, business process re-engineering. तर මේ වගේ දේවල් වලට ගොඩක් මුදල් යෙද වෙනවා. तर ඒක තුල එයාලගේ investment එක වැඩි, capital employed වැඩි, යනවා return එක අඩු වෙනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So therefore it's something to do with the efficiency. But you cannot say it's bad. Why is that? Because you are discussing this in the context of the vision mission. So in this organization, if you look at their objective, they are having the objective of giving back to the customers. They are not into the maximization of profit. මේ ආයතනය ගොඩක් social objective එකක් උඩ දුවන ආයතනයක් වගේ. ඒතකොට ඒ වගේ ආයතනයක profit එක මේ slightly drop වුණාට ඒක ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෙමෙයි. ඒතකොට මෙහෙම වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මෙයා ගොඩක් services offer කරලා තියෙනවා customers රට ගොඩක් දේවල් කරලා තියෙනවානේ. They have carried out a lot of voluntary activities, right? They have taken care of the different segment of the customers. So therefore it's not bad. You can say it is bad. ඒකට ඒ වගේ පොඩි ඉන්සයිට් එකක් ඔයා draw කරන්න. And at the same time, you can see one thing that is not good. It's about the amount of new lending to SMEs. It's not good. You planned for 150, but you ended up giving only 135, the lending. So it may not in line with one of your values. You mentioned that you want to make a difference to the community and you want to support the small and medium-sized businesses, but you are not doing them well at the moment. ඒතර පුතාට මේක දිහා බලලා කියන්න පුළුවන් මේ new lending දිහා බලපුවම අපිට පේනවා lendings අඩුයි. ඒතර lendings අඩුයි කියන්නේ ඔයාලගේ object එක value එකක් තිබුණා support කරන්න small and medium sized businesses වලට. නමුත් ඔයාලට එතන එහෙම ඒ හිතුව තරමේ support එකක් දෙන්න බැරි වෙලා තියෙනවා. So therefore that's an area which may need improvement in the future. Right? So what will happen for the ROC if there are high investment? If there are high investment, that means that if the input is high, then it suggests that your return would be low. එතකොට ඔයා ඒකට adequate profit make කරේ නැත්නම් පුතා අපි දන්නවා capital employed කියන අපි පහලට ගන්න එක නේ ratio එකක් විදිහට නිකන් just හිතුවොත් ROC. ඒතකොට ROC එකේ අපි දන්නවා capital employed වැඩි කියන්නේ ඒකට output එකක් generate උනේ නැත්නම් profit එකක් ප්‍රමාණවත් තරම් ආවේ නැත්නම් එතකොට ROC අඩු වෙනවනේ. එතකොට ඒක තමයි capital employed වැඩි වීමේ තියෙන බලපෑම. ඒකට සාපේක්ෂව net profit එක වැඩි නොවුණු. ඒකයි මම එහෙම කිව්වේ, right? Good. So you can see that this is not in line with that. This is not in line with that. But here, so having discussed that, we can't say it is bad. මේක bad කියලා කියන්න බෑ. මොකද අපේ main objective එක customers රට serve කරන එකනේ. ඒතකොට profit සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපි we are not that much of keen on that. So therefore we cannot say it's bad because we have compromised on this profitability because we have tried to serve the community. අපි community එකට serve කරන්න උත්සාහ කරලා තමයි මේ profit අඩු වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. නිසා ඒක ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ because we are in the vision. We are pursuing our vision. No problem. But one thing that you need to highlight here is that amount of new lending to SMEs, that is something less. You plan for this and this is what you ended up. So therefore, it's something, the worrying point is there. It's about supporting the small and medium sized businesses. Right? ඒතර ඔයාලට පුළුවන් වුණා ඒක link කරගන්න තුන්වෙනි value එක සම්බන්ධයෙන්. Right? ඒ වගේම ඔයා කතා කරා vision එක සම්බන්ධයෙන්. So similarly, if you come to this customer perspective, you can see that number of first-time home buyers are given the mortgage than expected. So in that sense, so here you are having a kind of idea to help these new homeowners, right? You wanted to help the new homeowners and you are particularly good at doing that. ඔයා හොඳයි ඒක කරන විදියනේ. So you doing that more than what you have planned. So therefore you can say that you are in the right direction. So you have achieved that. So when it comes to making the difference, especially for the new homeowners, yes, you are achieved them successfully. And even you can see the number of complaints are quite less. So that is also a good thing. So it's also a good thing. So the number of complaints has reduced even than planned. That may be especially due to the improvements that you would have made. You can see that you would have made certain initiatives. So you have made your processes simplified, right? You can even link that. ඒ වගේ දේවල් link කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඔයා processes simplified කරා during the period and also you would have introduced lots of convenience for these visually impaired people and also the wheelchair ramps being installed. So because of that, the number of complaints has also falls down. So it is also seen favorably. It's also a positive thing. And also you have taken care of the visually impaired even than you expected. හිතුවටත් වඩා මේ visually impaired community එකට serve කරලා තියෙනවා. You have established more cash points, which is talking cash points. So they can simply go and talk and get their money. So therefore, even you are supporting this what do you call that, visually impaired customers. So therefore, in that way, you are even achieving your first value. The putting customer needs first, you are in that direction. And also, if you look at the wheelchairs ramps, even you have very successful. You have achieved these targets. In that sense, you are doing well for the disabled community. So disabled community. So it's putting customer needs first. You are particularly successful in doing so. So now you might understand that how the things must be taken, right? I'm looking everything in the context of this vision, purpose, and even in the context of values. So that is the very purpose, because at the end of the day, you need to ensure that they are achieving these objectives, vision, purpose, and the values, those kinds of things. So that's why I'm always trying to link each of these performance measure to one of these objectives or even more than that and discuss. And that's how you must approach in case of the examination. So then that's about the customer perspective. It more contribute more towards the putting customer needs first, right? It's more about putting customer needs first. And even you're understanding your customers, making new products, good. Then if you come to the internal processes, you can see that number of business processes within the People's Bank re-engineered and simplified. So you can see that you have simplified the several number of business processes, even than expected. So in that sense, you are successfully achieving this, the making the business simple. So then you can relate that to the second value, and you can say that you are successful in doing so. And if you look at even the number of new services made available, it's a worrying point, isn't it? You are not doing well. තර බැලුවොත් මේ number of new services ඔයා පහක් offer කරන්න හිතුවා ඔයාට බැරි වුණා. තර ඔයාට සමහරට ඒක කතා කරන්න පුළුවන්. It may be because you have focused more on this business re-engineering, and your effort is directed more on the other aspects. තර ඔයාගේ effort එක ගොඩක් ඔයා දාලා තිනවා මේ business process re-engineering. ඒක තුල ඔයාට මේක මග ඇරුණා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So because of that, you could not focus on offering new services. So it may affect putting your customers first, because you are supposed to anticipate and understand the customer needs and make new products. So therefore, there is a worrying point over there. So you can just talk about that. ඒක ඔයාට එතන link කරලා කතා කරන්න පුළුවන් මෙතන අඩුවීමක් තියෙනවා. And incidence of frauds on customer accounts on credit card. So it is even less than expected. So that may be because of the initiatives that you have made. You have made lots of re-engineering being done. As a matter of that, you could found that the frauds are quite less. So even you planned for 10, but ended up only recording 3. So therefore, you are particularly successful in that aspects. So therefore, you are really good on this IT security. So which help to prevent this fraud. So therefore, you can again highlight that you are in the correct direction. You are in the correct way, yeah, achieving that particular purpose, that particular value. You can link to that. Then the total carbon dioxide, it's a worrying thing. You can see that. So it may be simply that you have done the business process re-engineering even than expected. So because of that, you could not keep the carbon dioxide emission under the expected levels. හිතපු මට්ටමේ වාට මේ carbon dioxide emissions තියාගන්න බැරි වෙන්න ඇතිනේ. අපි හිතුවටත් වඩා system developments කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒතකොට මේ system developments තුල අපි I think carbon dioxide තියෙන targets වල තියාගන්න බැරි වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒක slightly exceed කරලා තියෙනවා. Right? So we can talk about that. So here we cannot link that specifically. Yeah, we cannot link that specifically. So it's It's a kind of a negative aspect when we are trying to make in the business simple. Here, so you can here link about the responsibility aspect. You can say that you are simply ignoring, you are not doing well in terms of the responsibility. So being environmentally responsible, you couldn't do that better. So therefore you can even link that and you can discuss some. Similarly, when it comes to this learning and growth, yes, we'll be definitely giving you the very comprehensive answer, but I'm simply showing you how you must approach this question. So having uh, uh, pay attention to the discussion what we are having. So when you look at the answer, that answer is go in that particular line. Then you might find it difficult to make more sense out of that. So in fact, that is my purpose, right? answer direction so you do not become surprised having seen the answer. So that is my purpose, right? Okay. The one last thing, it's about the learning and growth. You can see that the number of colleagues trained to provide advice to SMEs. You can see that you plan to provide advice to SMEs to develop 1,500 colleagues, to train 1,500 colleagues, but ended up training less. අපි SME sector එකට support කරන්න advice කරන්න 1500 train කරනවා කියලා හිතුවා අපේ colleagues ලා. නමුත් අපි 1300යි train කරේ. So that is having a negative impact. You could see that here the amount of new lending that we have made to the SME is only 135. It's because it may be because, it's not because, you cannot say that exactly precisely, but it may be because of this. Since you could not train the adequate number of colleagues to provide advice for this SME sector, because of that they could not achieve the they could not secure the loans from the bank. So ඔයාට ප්‍රමාණවත් තරම් colleagues ලා train කරගන්න බැරි වුණා මේ SME category එකට advice කරන්න. ඒක තුල මේ SME ව්‍යාපාර වලට බැරි වුණා වෙන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රමාණවත් තරම් ණය ගන්න. ඒතකොට යාට ණය ලබා ගැනීමේදී අවශ්‍ය වෙන උපදේශනය නැහැ. ඒක නිසා මේක මෙහෙම වුණා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So therefore you can see that again highlight you are not doing the justice, or you are not doing well to supporting the small and medium sized businesses. Small and medium sized businesses වලට ඔයා මේ support එක ප්‍රමාණවත් තරම් extend වෙලා නැහැ කියන එක. And then you are having the number of hours used to support the community projects. So it's good that you are responsible in doing serving the community. So even more than expected. And at the same time, you can highlight that since you are investing more money on this could have contributed for you to get into a lower return on capital employed. So මේ වගේ investment projects වලට අපි මුදල් වැඩියෙන් යොදවනකොට අපි හිතුවටත් වඩා වැඩියෙන් යෙදවෙනකොට අපේ profitability එක අඩු වුණා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒතකොට ඒක තුලත් මේ return on capital employed එක අඩු වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේ link එකකුත් ඔයාලට පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන්. And also you can see that the number of training positions taken up by the candidates from the Zealand's most disadvantaged area. So it is even slightly less, but more or less you have achieved. So therefore you can say that you have fairly maintained the disadvantaged community. The disadvantaged community එකටත් යම් justice එකක් ඔයා කරලා තියෙනවා. Right? You are more or less there, but you are slightly less නේ. මේ disadvantaged community එකටත් ඔයා යම්කිසි සාධාරණයක් කරලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් පොඩ්ඩක් ඒ target එකම achieve කරන්න බැරි වෙලා. And again, when you look at the community, so you have supported more than expected. It's good thing in one hand, but at the same time, it would have contributed for a lower return on capital, but still you are doing better. So because your objective is about giving something back to the customers. So it's more or less you are in the correct direction. So මෙතන බලපුවම පුතලා අපිට පේනවා ඔයාගේ vision එකත් එක්ක අරගෙන බලපුවාම ඔයා ගොඩක් දුරට සාර්ථකයි. Right? You are quite successful when we look the things from the vision and vision and the purpose and even the values. So අන්න ඒ වගේ discussion එකක් තමයි ඔයාගෙන් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. Right? So I may be uploading the answer for this. Then you can read that, and that will help you to make a perfect sense out of that, right? Okay, it took a kind of a long time than expected, but still I think it's pretty much important. Right, okay. Then, so let us stop the discussion for the day. Even if you are having questions, we better take them in the next class since we have already exceeded the time. And so see you in the next class. So there we are going to discuss uh, the performance measurement in the public sector. Right, then thank you very much. See you in the next class.